As usual, we are gathered here today to listen to another exposition of the Lord Buddha's teaching. And before we commence this sermon, let us all take a moment to remind ourselves that we are in receipt of this pristine teaching that enables us all, empowers us all to redeem ourselves from the suffering that is samsara once and for all, because of the Supremely Enlightened One, the Perfect One, the Omniscient One, the Magnificent One, the Infinitely Virtuous One, the Undefeated One, the Incomparable One, the Gautama Supreme Buddha. Before we commence the sermon, let us all take a moment to pay homage to the Lord Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And also, before we commence, let us take a moment to observe the precepts. Let us take a moment to observe the precepts, accepting that there might have been instances in the week gone by during which you succumbed to the defilements of desire, aversion and delusion, and having done so, the precepts that you vowed to abide by might have been broken. However, in the resolve that may this have to be the last time I have to observe these precepts, may through my understanding and comprehension of the Dhamma, the virtue entailed within these precepts be part and parcel of my very being, of my very conscience. With that resolve in mind, let us take a moment to observe the precepts. And in order to do so, please repeat all together and after me. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Saranagamaṇaṃ sampunnaṃ. Pānātipātā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchāchārā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Suramēraya majjapamā daṭṭhānā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Tisaranena saddhing panchasilang dhammang sadhukhang surakkitang katva appamadena sampadeta. Okay, you may all now be seated. Most venerable members of the Mahasangha, distinguished members of the audience, as well as those joining us online. Before we commence today's program, let us all take a moment to acknowledge this perfect opportunity as an opportunity to repay the debts that we owe to the infinite number of beings that we will have come past in this long journey in samsara. Anyone and everyone who we might have come across, who might have helped us, supported us, assisted us, in whatever capacity it was possible for them to do so, to enable us a better livelihood, to become better people within ourselves, to improve ourselves, to better ourselves. This is the perfect opportunity for us to repay debts that we owe all of them, by inviting them to join us, wherever they may be, in the 10,000 world systems. May they join us and may they witness this meritorious deed. If any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, may they be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plains. And may for all those beings the opportunity arise such that they are able to comprehend the teaching during this sermon, the teaching of the Buddha, and may they be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With such compassionate and benevolent thoughts in your hearts and in your minds, as I now make this invitation out to all the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, and the dead, those who have predeceased us, our ancestors, I ask you all to extend that invitation in your hearts and in your minds out to all those beings, inviting them to join us, inviting them to witness this meritorious deed, inviting them to acquire merit, inviting them to redeem themselves from the shackles of samsara once and for all, and to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Sadhammang Munirajasansa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta. Now that we're all here, let us also take a moment to acknowledge the people we used to be, not just in this birth but also in this infinitely long journey in samsara, considering for a moment the temperament that we used to possess before the Dhamma touched our lives. Having always fallen into the association of ignoble, immoral people who defiled our minds with raga, desha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion, and blinded us with ignorance and attachment, that is avidya and tanha, innumerable will be the times we will have offended the noble ones, the Samma Sambuddhas, the Pacceka Buddhas, Arahata Buddhas, Anagami, Sakradagami, Sotapannas, be they on the path or having attained the fruits, as well as the Buddha's ministry, the Sambuddha Shasana, as well as the Triple Gem. For any thoughts, words or actions of revile, desecration and slander that we might have directed towards them, either knowingly or unknowingly, the consequences of such actions may be that today our progress in the Dhamma is hindered, blocked. Therefore, before we commence this sermon, let us all take a moment to fill our hearts with humility, humbleness, and take a moment to seek forgiveness from the Noble Ones, as well as the Buddha's ministry, for any thoughts, words or actions, however small they may be, we might have conducted in this infinitely long journey in samsara. And finally, let us all make a firm resolve. May through the course of this sermon, may you all be able to achieve the noble attainment of Sotapanna and shut down the gates to the hells once and for all. If there are those among you who have already achieved that state of Sotapanna, may through the course of this sermon, you be able to fulfill the subsequent stages and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With that firm resolve in mind, I invite you all to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. So you have all come to meditate? Good. Why did you come here for that? As if I can make you meditate. You've been missold. Ask for a refund. Hopefully you don't expect that meditation is something that I can make you do. If you have come perhaps for some instruction, of course I can offer that. But there is no place or time for meditation. There's no auspicious time for meditation. You don't get out an almanac and check, what's the best time to meditate? Is it 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 past 3 in the morning? Which one? It is very praiseworthy that you have come along. But let us get our heads straight on this matter. Meditation is not something that we do at some place at some time. It is the way our minds are at any given moment in time. There is no place or time to meditate. To meditate is to reflect on the truth. Okay, then answer this question for me. What time of the day would you like to reflect on the truth versus what times of the day would you like to reflect on false? When do you like to be cheated? When do you like to know the truth? 50-50? Shall we take shifts? Is it me or is it a bit warm in here? It's warm. And whose fault is that? Can that be fixed? We'll fix it now, but I know what you're going to be telling in 15 minutes time. Okay, now if you just go and set the same setting on the others. Thank you. In a little while you're going to complain again. Why are you going to complain in a little while? It's too cold. Why can't you just make your minds up? Right, so where were we? I was asking you, what time of day would you like to be able to see the truth about the world? What times of day would you not mind being shown an entire falsehood? What's your preference? Do you have a time of day when you like to know the truth? Time of day when it's okay to be fooled? No, well, there you go. You're always curious, aren't you? To find out the truth about anything. About anything. That's why you watch the news. That's why you read the newspapers, to find out what's going on, the truth about the matter. Someone says something, let's go find out the truth about this. Someone gives you a fact, then you go and Google it to find out the truth about something. So people aren't cannot settle with just any old information. It has to be the truth. Because truth is valued. Meditation is nothing other than reflecting on the truth. When? All the time. Constantly. Meditation is nothing other than reflecting on the truth. This is why you shouldn't need to receive a special invitation to meditate. Meditation should be the de facto. Meditation should be your default mode, modus operandi, by default. You should be meditating right now, as well as a minute ago, as well as 5 minutes before you walked into this room, as well as when you got on the bus, as well as while you got off the bus, as well as while you were on the bus. You should have been in meditation. What is meditation again? What is it? Reflecting on the truth. Is there anything to lose in reflecting on the truth? Nothing to be lost. But what if you can't see the truth? Then problems. Meditation is nothing other than reflecting on the truth. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Reflecting on the truth. So now we have a question. Reflecting on the truth. Okay, we get that. The truth about what? The truth about what? Life. Wow. That's big, isn't it? Life. Where do you start? Geez, life. Reflecting on the truth about life, where do you start? Where do you end? Do you know what life is? This is getting pretty philosophical now. How about I propose, reflect on the truth about yourself. Meditation is to get to know yourself better. Have you ever had a pen pal? Anyone had a pen pal? Good. Do you remember how you got to know this pen pal? It might have been randomly. Perhaps you got their details on a website or maybe on the newspaper. And get those details in the newspaper, and then you started exchanging letters, and then you started asking about the other person. So, tell me about yourself. I'd like to know you a little bit better. What do you do? What about your family? What do you like? Where do you like to go on holiday? What are your favorite things to do? What do you like to eat? Do you have any siblings? Right? So you got to know the other person better. See, this is not new to us. Because if you think about it for a moment, throughout our lives, we have become experts in something that actually we oughtn't be proud about, and that is to get to know the other person better. We have learned this at school, we learned this at college, we learned this at uni, we learned this at the workplace. At the workplace, what do they tell you to do? Learn about whom? The customer. Right? Customer is always right. Right? Customer is king. Find out about the customer. The patient is your customer if you are in medicine. Your student is your customer if you are a teacher. Customer. Learn about the customer. So again, who are you learning about? Who are you studying? The other person. This is what we learnt at uni. We specialized in getting to know the other person. Computer science. Using technology to what? Learn about myself? No. Using information technology to learn about everybody else, except for the donkey. Learn about everyone else, except the donkey. We learned physiology, anatomy, we learned economics, we learned math, physics, chemistry, all these subjects. We learned them. Sport, all the time learning about the other person, learning about everybody else except for the donkey. Hello, there's an elephant in the room. See, we've become experts. In whom? The other person, the other guy. We are so good at he's and she's and it's and they's. When you get into a conversation with somebody, just ask yourself how easy it is to start talking about somebody else. Usually your conversations will always go that way. Start talking about somebody else. You'll either appreciate or usually it's a criticism. That's our favorite pastime, isn't it? Criticizing others, talking about others' weaknesses, others' faults. Why did she do this? Why did he do that? Who's she going out with these days? Why? How come they broke up? I mean, they've got websites on this stuff. There's a big one that starts with a big F. Right? And you're all on it. I don't know, on my report card, F stood for fail. I'll leave you to figure out the rest of it. So it's not something I wanted to be known for, F. But these days, it's everything that everyone's talking about. The big F. The white F on a blue background. Talking about whom? Everybody else except for the donkey. Learning about everybody else. Specializing in others. Gosh, you got groups. You got the wall. You can specialize in others. See how your lives have become an enterprise, an activity, an excursion on becoming a specialist on other people. Tell me, is that what you came into this world for? Learn about other people? Okay, you want to learn about other people. Well, how much do you know about yourself? Very little. What a pity. Knowing very little about ourselves, we spend a lot of our lives trying to learn about the other person. And then we wonder, at the end of our lives, how come my life was a failure? Well, guess what? You always spent your life looking at a big F. No wonder your life is a failure. This is why the Buddha's teaching is all about reflecting on ourselves. The Dhamma is a tool to learn about ourselves, not about the other person, not about other people, not about everybody else. Who cares about everybody else? We got to specialize in ourselves. Because if you specialize in yourself, you'll begin to understand how you operate. You still don't know, perhaps, why when you see strawberry cheesecake, your mouth starts salivating. You just can't figure it out. Why does it do that? Or when you hear a noise coming from the background, why do you turn your heads? Why is it when someone walked through the door, you had to turn your head and see who it was that walked into the room? See, you don't know the answer. This is the problem. I ask you what your favorite color is and you have an answer. I ask you why. System error. Your system crashes because it can't process that question. There's no response that can come to that. Nothing reasonable. See, how much time have you spent understanding about yourselves? Buddhist philosophy is to understand ourselves. How we work, how our minds work, and why it does it the way it does. Meditation is a tool for that. Once having realized the philosophy behind how we work, then you continue to reflect on yourselves with one purpose. If you understand how you work, if you understand yourself better, you can live happily. My dad came around today, so I was asking him, what's up? Of course, he was asking me, what's up? I said, not much. So I said, how's it going these days? He told me that he's still trying to figure out what Nibbana is. It's very nice of him to be humble like that. Because he always complains about not being able to argue with me. I've always been a tough nut. Let's see who walked into the room. Curious, right? We timed it. I asked the lady to walk in about 10 minutes after the sermon began. Because I want you all to understand yourselves. So you came all that way from wherever you came from, not to listen to the sermon. There's something more important for you. Who walked into the room? You came all that way, got on that bus, came on that rugged road to find out who walked into the room? I ask you why. System crash. Can't process. See, this is where we need to try and find some answers. Why do I do the things I do? Why do I feel the way I do? Why is it I can't bring myself to like you? However, I like the other person. Why? We need to find some answers to these questions. How come I like red and not green? Why? Why do I like to be called Chuti Puta? Why isn't Puta not good enough? Why does Chuti Puta just kind of excite me? See, we need to find some answers to these questions. So I asked my dad how are things going, and he said, I'm still trying to figure out what Nibbana is. What he believes Nibbana is an exercise at the end of which you give up everything. And he also believes that Nibbana is how you stop rebirth. No wonder he's scared. So I spent about an hour and a half or 2 hours with him today, trying to help him understand that Nibbana has nothing to do with ending rebirth. That's not what Nibbana is. It's nothing to do with it. You don't attain Nibbana for the purpose of ending rebirth. That's a byproduct. Hey, that's not the big deal. So I helped him walk away today with a new definition of what Nirvana is. So today he walked away with a new definition of what Nirvana is. And that is to live happily with no mental suffering whatsoever. See, now he has no problem with Nirvana. After I helped him understand, he said, oh no, that's not such a bad idea now. I said, well, that's what I've been trying to explain to you all along. Because he's quite the skeptic, as I have shared with you in the past. Whenever I start to talk to him about Buddhism, he's always talking to me about, well, Swami Nuhansa, right? You guys are trying to not be reborn again, but what's the point if rebirth isn't there after all? I said, why are we even talking about this stuff? I said, rebirth has as much to do with nirvana as the number of coconuts on the coconut tree if today were Tuesday. You get my point? I tell you, today is Tuesday. Therefore, how many coconuts are there on the tree? What's the connection? None. Okay, today is Wednesday. Now how many coconuts are there on the tree? What's the connection? None. So why do people fear so much about nirvana? It's because people think it's got this big thing to do with stopping rebirth. People are not keen on stopping rebirth. I'll tell you what people like to do. Live happily. Don't you all like to live happily? Until the concept of nirvana really sinks into your mind, what people really want to do is just live happily without all these problems. I don't want money problems. I don't want family problems. I don't want health problems. I don't want this problem. I don't want that one. I just don't want problems in my life. I just want to live happily. What I'm proposing to you is, that is what nirvana is. So why are you running away from it then? See, you've tried all the tricks in the book by now, haven't you? Right? Look at yourselves for a moment. From here I can tell you all tried every trick in the book. That's how your hair turned grey. You've tried every trick in the book. You're very experienced people, very knowledgeable, right? Come from all walks of life. You've tried everything there is. And yet, I ask you the question, have you found a mechanism? Have you found a way to live with no mental stresses, no mental suffering, no mental pain, no mental agitation? And the answer will always be a resounding no. Unless you got to listen what I have to say. What I have to say is because what the Buddha had to say. So please, let's all get this straight. Nirvana has as much to do with stopping rebirth as Tuesday has with the number of coconuts on the coconut tree. How much is that? None at all. So let's not even talk about rebirth. That's a byproduct. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, let it be. I would even ask you to accept for a moment that it has nothing to do with rebirth. You could attain Nibbana and keep being reborn. How about that? I'd like to propose that to you. I have a way to help you attain Nibbana and then and allow you to keep being reborn, but with no suffering. Now would you sign up for Nibbana? Seriously, what is your problem? Is it rebirth or is it suffering? Which one's your problem? Suffering. So let's not even talk about rebirth. The Nibbana that I know, the Dhamma that the Buddha taught me, the Buddhist philosophy that I understand, is a way to keep being reborn without suffering. Now how about that? I promise you, you can be reborn but with no suffering. You walk into the wrong class? Your faces tell me that. No, I tell you why. This is because this is how you've been made to think. This is how we've all been indoctrinated. People say, Nibbana, stop rebirth. I don't want that. Why? Why would you want that? You love your family. Right? You worked hard to become successful people. You have a loving family, right? Who would want to not be reborn? I mean, don't people say to their loved ones, in every birth to come, I would like you, my darling, to be my ... You can fill in the blank. No, it's my husband, my wife, my father, my daughter, right? Whatever. Don't people say these things to each other? Have you not said these things to your loved ones? In every birth to come, I want you to be my whoever. So you see, you never had a problem with rebirth. I'm telling you, Nibbana has nothing to do with rebirth. It doesn't stop rebirth. You will be reborn. Don't you worry. I'm proposing to you a mechanism to be reborn, but with no suffering. Who doesn't want a part of that? Who doesn't want a piece of that cake? I'm telling you, it's delicious. That's what Nirvana is. So that's the definition that my dad walked away with today. So today, he walks away. In his own words, he said, hey, that's not such a bad idea now. And also, he used to think that Nirvana is all about giving up everything. Nibbana is nothing to do with letting go. Nothing to do with letting go. I don't know why people think Buddhism is about letting go, because it's not about letting go. Letting go is so overrated. It's not all that cool. Seriously, letting go is not all that cool. Imagine this, right? I'm thirsty. I need a glass of water. I let go of all the glasses that I had. What am I going to do now? That's not cool. I'm going to suffer. So why did I let go? Nibbana is not about letting go. So if nothing else, please walk away today with a new definition of what Nibbana is. That which I shared with my dad this afternoon. And that is, Nibbana is living life happily with no mental suffering whatsoever. You want to be a part of that? Of course. Because there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. Nothing to lose. It almost sounds unreal. How could there be something like that where there's nothing to lose and everything to gain? Sounds like a gimmick. It's the kind of thing a salesman, door-to-door salesman might come up to you and say, Madam, I've got this new thing. It's the best thing I've since sliced bread. All pros, no cons. But there is one such thing, and that is Nibbana. Everything else, have a skeptical eye, because there's always going to be some kind of loophole, some kind of weakness. But with Nibbana, if you get this right, folks, you will realize there is nothing to lose and everything to gain. Last week, if you remember, those who came along to the sermon will remember, we talked about dependent origination. So I'm going to touch on some of those concepts because that is what we are going to be using for our meditation today. I told you this is the best news I ever got. Dependent origination. There are some words that need to be filled in to make those two words complete, a complete sentence. So you have dependent origination. Let me complete the sentence for you. The origination of suffering is dependent. So we flip the two words around. It's dependent origination. Switch the two words around. Now you have origination dependent, and then put some words in between. The origination of suffering is dependent. You got that? The origination of suffering is dependent. That's the best news I ever got. If you ask me what would you like for your birthday present, Swami Nuhansa, I'll tell you. Tell me that the origination of of suffering is dependent. That's the best birthday gift I can ever have. That's fantastic news. The origination of suffering is dependent. Why is that such great news? Because it means you can do something about it. If the origination of suffering weren't dependent, if the origination of suffering was independent, now you're stuck. You're screwed. Are you suffering? Tough, live with it. Because there's nothing we can do about it. But hey, thanks to the Buddha, we have today come to realize that the origination of suffering is dependent, and that is what dependent origination was proclaimed for. For us to realize and understand that the origination of suffering is dependent. I really want you to get that into your heads. So what was our definition of Nibbana again? The mechanism or the way to live life happily with no mental suffering forever. Is it anything to do with rebirth? No, nothing to do with rebirth. If you die, will you be reborn? Yes. Of course. Once you see Paticcasamuppada, you will see that. After Jara Marana, well, again it starts with Jati. Goes back, keeps going back. So don't you worry. Rebirth is there with us. Don't you worry. Every chitta that passes away is followed by a new chitta. See? Even for an arahant. So you needn't worry about not being reborn again. And you also needn't worry about, will I have to let go of my children? Will I have to let go of my wife? Will I have to let go of my husband? Will I have to let go of my cars and my houses and all these material possessions that I have worked so hard to build up? No. Now, but I know there's a question that's lingering in your mind now. Let me tell you what that question is. Like I can read your mind. Well, Swami Nuhansa, you say you don't have to let go of anything, but look at what you've done. Right? That's what you're thinking right now. You say it's nothing to do with letting go, but look at what you've done. Haven't you let go? See, you've got no family now. You haven't got all those things you worked hard to build up. See, if I listen to what you're saying, then surely that's going to happen to me also. I don't want that. I didn't let go. They let me go. Seriously, believe you me, I didn't let go. They let me go. Everything you own, complete the sentence, owns you. Yes or no? Everything you own owns you. If you own a company, where do you spend most of your time? If you have a family, who do you spend most of your time with? With your family. If you love your phone, if you're addicted to it, which item do you spend most of your time with? Your phone. So then tell me, everything you own, gone, owns you. So you see, I didn't let go. They let me go. They stopped owning me. So, I was free to do as I wish. So don't try to let go. Just let them let you go. I want you to feel this freedom that I experienced today, folks. This is so liberating. I live free like a bird today. And that's not because I have no duties or responsibilities, because duties and responsibilities have nothing to do with freedom. This is the man I know who had the most duties and responsibilities ever. He had the duty and responsibility of establishing a ministry to last how many years? 5,000 years. He had that responsibility. What responsibilities do you have? Do you have to establish a company to last 50 years, let alone 5,000? And how much did the Buddha suffer as a result of that? None whatsoever. See, it has nothing to do with duties and responsibilities. Why do people think all these falsehoods? This is all made up stuff to keep you from taking on board the Buddha's teaching. It is nothing like that. This is so liberating, this is so cooling. Experience this, enjoy this, I welcome you. So hopefully you got that straight now. Nibbana is nothing about stopping rebirth. It's nothing about letting go. It's simply about learning to live happily with no mental suffering whatsoever. Are you all up for that? Good. What's the best news we got? The origination of suffering is dependent. Does that not empower you? Someone feels weak if they haven't realized that the origination of suffering is dependent. When do you feel fear? So this is really simple stuff. How old are you, though? 9. Buddha? 10. See, I'm addressing an audience in which we have a 9 and a 10-year-old. Right? They are my audience. So I'm putting these things in a way that even they can understand. You have no excuse. The moment you don't understand what I'm saying, put your hand up. Now you have no excuse. Because I will simplify this. I'll make it so simple that a 9 and a 10-year-old can understand this. You have no excuse. They haven't schooled as much as you have. They haven't been educated as much as you have. They have very little experience compared to all of you. Right? So if they get this, then you must get this. Why? Because it's not complicated. It's simple. So what were we talking about? The origination of suffering is dependent. I ask you a question. When do you sense fear? Have you all experienced fear at some point in your life? Okay, first of all, Arahants in the room, put your hand up, please. Just checking in case so I know I can't expect an answer from you. Are any Arahants in the room? Can the real Slim Shady please stand up? Can the real Arahant please stand up? Okay, no Arahants. Right, let me ask the question again then. Have you all sensed fear at some point in your lives? Thank you. Phew, that makes my life easier. When do you sense fear? Think about a time. Don't jump with an answer. Don't jump out with an answer. Just think about the last time you sensed fear. It might have been when you were crossing the street. It might have been when you were called to your manager's office. It might have been when you were waiting for your exam results. It might have been when you were asked to jump, but you didn't know what was going to happen next. So usually, fear is something that we experience when we are ignorant of something. When you don't know what might happen. Yes or no? Yes. Fear is something you experience when you don't know what might happen. The unknown is what brings us fear. The unknown is what brings us fear. So when you know something, then there is no room for fear. When you know something, there is no room for fear. You can avoid the things that bring you danger when you know something. Why are people scared to go in the dark? Why? Unknown. People, some say, ghosts. Some say demons. You don't know what's lurking in the dark corner. So people are scared, people are worried going into the dark. But you switch the light on, Buddha. See, there's no one in the room. There's no one in the room. How do you train your kids to sleep by themselves in their rooms? I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I was really scared about sleeping by myself in the room. So my parents had to come and convince me that there was no one else in the room. I was okay. No one was going to come and threaten me. No one was going to come and hurt me. Having been convinced, I realized there's no one in the room. So actually, with some of your kids, do you not leave like a little table lamp on in the room? Maybe even you do that still. Shame on you. You leave a little table lamp on. Why? Just in case. Because you don't like the unknown. If you hear a noise in the garden, now there's fear. Your heart starts pounding, beating faster. So what do? You get out of bed, pick up the baton from under your bed, right? And the torch in the other hand. Oh no, you're more sophisticated. You get the gun from out of your drawer and then go into the garden, right? Who's it? Who's there? And then you just hear meow. Okay. Oof. Nothing to fear. Why? Now you have become knowledgeable. See, the unknown is what brings us fear. So when you're knowledgeable about something, you don't need to be scared, you don't need to be fearful about it. Buddhist philosophy is the same. People fear it. I tell you, people fear Buddhist teaching. They're scared of it. They won't come close to... there are some... Just the other day, right? Something really funny happened. Indusumana Hamdro, who usually does the rounds when there's a sermon, just to make sure everything's in order, he was met with an elderly gentleman. He'd come in a rickshaw and he'd parked outside the monastery. So he'd been there for a few minutes, about half an hour or so. So Indusumana Hamdro had gone and asked him, "Sir, would you not like to come into the monastery? Why are you here? Can we get you something?" And then he said, "No, Swaminatha, I don't want to go in." So, "But why are you here then?" "Well, last week, my grandson came to the monastery. And from the day when he got back home, I got to talk to him. And I realized after talking to him, he'd been fed something. And what it had done to him is now he says that he wants to attain Nibbana. So he'd been fed something. It's like black magic. Right? In our words, black magic. So perhaps you can come into the monastery and we can talk about it, sir. Indusumana Hamdro was suggesting to this gentleman. And he said, no. Because what happened then was, my son, who is my grandchild's father, he came to the monastery to find out what had happened to his son. And you know what? He'd also been fed the same thing. And then he came back home and he starts talking to me. He's saying, "Dati, we have to attain Nibbana. What are we doing? Why are we wasting our time? This is what we need to do." He lived a very normal life before he went to the monastery. So he was doing this one. What kind of normal life? Well, he used to come home about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening, take a bit of kasippu, right? And, just the normal life. He used to live a normal life. Pick a fight with his wife once in a while, right? Normal life. Like every good man does. So that's all changed. Swaminatha. So I have come to find out what it is that you guys fed him. And then again Indusumana Hamdro suggests, "Well, sir, I ask you, I plead you, perhaps we can go inside, sit down and chat about this." "Oh, no. Because I know what you're about to do to me. If I go into that building, you're going to feed me something. And then I'm going to lose all my normalness. So that's the last thing I want to do. I'm not going to walk into the monastery." So Indusumana Hamdro came back and he shared this story with me. And then we had a quiet laugh with each other. Because as monks we have quiet laughs. We don't do the haka-hakas like we used to. See, this is all because people have completely misunderstood what Nibbana is. So much so that I sometimes feel whether it is some kind of force that's preventing the Buddha Dhamma reaching people's lives and doing them good. So much so that I feel that it is the people's bad karma, that they are having to listen to other people who propagate and misinform people about what Buddhist teaching is. Let me emphasize once again. Buddhist philosophy, the true teaching of the Buddha, has nothing about stopping rebirth. You can be reborn, don't you worry. You can. And it also has nothing to do with letting go. Freedom and letting go are not one and the same. Like I said, I never let anything go. What happened? They let me go. They let me go. Now I am free to choose who I hold on to. In your lives, are you free to make that choice? Are you free to choose who you spend your day with? Are you free to choose who you walk into the bedroom with? Are you free to choose who you have tea with? Are you free to choose where you go and work? How you spend your day? No, these have all been decided for you because they haven't let you go. You're bound. Not just duty bound. That's not just duty and obligation bound. You're just bound. Attachments. These are the bonds. If you are a true scholar of Buddhist philosophy, you will realize that Buddhist teaching is nothing other than learning to live happily with no mental suffering whatsoever, forever. To do that, we must first empower ourselves with the knowledge that the origination of suffering is dependent. So this is a juncture, an important one. Let me check you all got that. The origination of suffering is dependent. Have you all understood that? The origination of suffering is dependent, because we can't make progress beyond that point if that hasn't sunken in yet. The origination of suffering is dependent. Therefore, you don't need to fear suffering. You don't need to be a slave to suffering. I don't want any of you to tell me, Swaminatha, our lives, we suffer. What can we do? Don't talk like that. Look at yourself. How ugly. Swaminatha, we suffer. How ugly. Why'd you let suffering beat you? You beat suffering. Don't let suffering enslave you. Overcome it. Because you can. And you can because the origination of suffering is dependent. It's the best news I got. The day I realized this, I felt like Superman. I almost jumped off the roof. Thankfully, Guru Swami said, no, don't go that far. Feel like Superman, just don't try it. I honestly tell you, you will feel like Superman. You will feel so empowered when you realize this truth, that the origination of suffering is dependent, because now you know that you can do something about it. You can change it. You don't have to live with it. You can do something about it. So to do that, we need to find out what is the cause of suffering. Because what Buddhist philosophy teaches us is don't worry about the result. Look into the causes, treat the causes, and the result will look after itself. And you have already practiced this principle in day-to-day life. How do you put out a fire? You find the causes, take away one of them, you no longer have a fire. If you didn't realize this, then you'd get burnt. If you didn't realize what are the causes of a fire, you would not be able to put it out, and you would burn. I remember when I was a kid, my mother used to warn me. Whenever I used to walk towards a fire, because I remember we used to have a barbecue at home every once in a while. So my mother used to warn me, Putta, don't go close to the fire. The reason for that was because she knew that I was not knowledgeable enough to go into close proximity of the fire. I didn't know fire enough. I hadn't got to know it very well. We hadn't had a good acquaintance. Me and fire hadn't been introduced to each other properly. So because we hadn't been introduced to each other properly, I didn't know it well enough to get close to it. The unknown devil it was. This is why my mother warned me. But today she doesn't do that. When I used to pick up a pair of scissors, pick up a knife, she used to warn me, Puta, drop it right now. No, I just want to play. No, it's not play. Drop it right now. But now she doesn't come behind me and say, stop playing with those scissors. Stop using that knife. I rang her last week. She didn't ask me, are you still playing with scissors? Why does she not ask me this question now? Because she knows now that I have become acquainted with scissors, with a knife. They don't pose the same threat that they used to do to me. Why is that? Because I now know how to use them. I tell you, you can become as formidable with suffering. All you got to do is understand its mechanism. There's a process which originates suffering. It's a process. The beautiful thing about a process is you can stop it and you can start it. It's a process. You can stop it, you can start it. And it's an artificial process. It's not a natural process, it's an artificial process. You can choose to start it, you can choose to execute it, you can choose to stop it. The result of this process is suffering. You should have a smile on your face right now. Suffering is the result of a process. What does that tell you? Figure out the process and look for the stop button. If you figure out where the stop button is, you press that. That's it. You will have come across dependent origination in some way or some form or the other. You might have read it in a book, perhaps listened to a sermon. Right? So this is not a thesis on dependent origination by any means, because today we are here to reflect on it. Okay, had you come along last week, you would have gotten the ins and outs of it. We went through the guts and the intestines of it. But today we are about putting it into practice. But this is just a refresher from last week. Dependent origination starts at ignorance. The more familiar avidya. You will have heard it, avidya paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, and so on. Hey, don't worry about any of those terms. The key term there to identify is avidya, or ignorance. Ignorance is nothing other than ignorance of how suffering comes into being. That is what ignorance is. See, the Buddha spoke about the Four Noble what? Truths. He said this is the truth. Right? When he spoke about the Four Noble Truths, what's the first Noble Truth? The first Noble Truth of suffering. The second Noble Truth of the cause of suffering. The third Noble Truth of the cessation of suffering. And the fourth Noble Truth of the path to cessation of suffering. Let's go back to number 2. The second Noble Truth of the cause of suffering. When you say the cause of suffering, what that tells us is there's a cause that leads to suffering. In other words, there's a process. If this, then that. Right? If this, then that. So if the cause exists, then the result will manifest. So then you have a process. You can actually draw it out as a diagram. A relationship diagram. Draw a box, A. Draw an arrow, B. If A exists, then B has to exist. And if A ceases to exist, then B shall no longer exist. This is what causality is. Dependency. Dependent origination, remember. The origination of suffering is dependent. At the root of this process is ignorance. And the second noble truth is, ignorance of the cause of suffering is what leads one to suffering. Ignorance of the cause of suffering is what leads one to suffering. So if you became knowledgeable about the cause of suffering, would you now be suffering? I'll give you an analogy. Imagine you're sitting under a tree, okay, like Mr. Newton did. sitting under a tree and there's some fruit falling off the tree. Okay, let's say it's a coconut tree. So that was Newton under an apple tree. If it had been Siripala, he would have been under a coconut tree, surely, right? So there's a coconut falling off the tree, and there's an observer. So not Siripala, but the observer. The observer says, "Move! There's a coconut." The moment Siripala hears this, what he's going to do is he's going to look up. Curious guy wants to know the color of the coconut that's going to come crashing on his head. A lot like you. Right? It's curious. I don't care that it's going to come crashing on my head and kill me. I just want to know what color it is. Right? So Siripala looks up. Now imagine the moment Siripala looks up, what if the coconut disappeared? This is a hypothetical scenario, but I just want you to imagine this. What if the moment Siripala looks up, the coconut that was coming at whatever speed, let's say 20 miles an hour, the coconut was coming at 20 miles per hour to crash on his head and kill the man on the spot. The moment he looks up and sees the coconut, it vanishes. So he says, "What coconut?" And if he looks down again, then the coconut resumes. And he says, "What? Look! What coconut?" And the moment he looks up, the coconut has disappeared. Wouldn't that be great? Because the moment you see the problem's gone. Wouldn't that be great? The moment you see the problem's gone. Someone says, "Fire." You go, "Where?" There's no fire. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? Yes. Of course, this is a fantasy. But in the realm of suffering, this is the truth. When you think about mental suffering, this is the truth. We only suffer because we do not see the cause of suffering. Once you've seen the cause of suffering, the entire process which has thus led you thus far to suffer ceases to execute, ceases to exist. So this is what we talked about last week. So this is simply a refresher. Okay? Avidya paccaya sankhara. It's ignorance which kicks off the suffering process. Ignorance is itself not knowing what causes suffering. So once you know what causes suffering, you are no longer ignorant. Therefore, the cause of suffering can no longer run. Did you get that? Ignorance is what causes suffering. Ignorance is not knowing the cause of suffering. So ignorance is the process that starts the cause of suffering, that kick-starts the process of suffering, right? Because you have avidya paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, nama rupa salayatana, passa, vedana, tanha, upadana, bhava, jati, jara, marana. The Sinhala or the Pali equivalents of those. Okay? So ignorance is what kick-starts the suffering process. Ignorance, by definition, is not knowing how we suffer. So you suffer because you don't know how you suffer. So the moment you realize how you suffer, what happens? You're no longer suffering. See, therefore, to not suffer, all you need to do is what? Realize how you suffer. Realize why you suffer. The moment you realize that, you're no longer suffering. How powerful does that make you feel? I don't know about you, but it just makes me feel so empowered. So free. This time and time again is what proves to me that anicca dukkha anatta is the pill. Nothing else. It is such a solid evidence that anicca dukkha and anatta is the answer to this problem. So this is evidence of that. Because ignorance is what kickstarts this process. And ignorance is accepting that rupa vedana sanya sankhara vijnana are pleasurable, joyful and essenceful. Nitya sukhatta. Because once you are of that belief, then you come to the conclusion that it is worthy of existence. Remember we talked about what subha was? Bhaveta sudusu. worthy of existence. So in other words, it is worthy, the activity or the exercise of creating existence by using the 5 aggregates is a worthy exercise. That is the conclusion that one would come to, provided that the 5 or the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara Vijnana, these aggregates are pleasurable, joyful and essenseful. But what if they're not? Then how could you come to that conclusion? If instead of them being pleasurable, they are vexatious. Instead of them being joyful, they are sufferable. Instead of them being essence-full, they are essence-less. There is no way you can now come to the conclusion that it is worthy of existence. Rather, you come to the conclusion that it is unworthy of existence, asubha. And if something is unworthy of existence, now you do not use that as a raw material to kickstart the suffering process. Sound like Greek? Well, if you didn't come along last week, I'm sorry. Last week we drew it up on a board and talked through this process. That's a refresher. Right? So if you didn't come along last week, I'll give you a second chance. And that is by giving you a summary of what it is we need to do now. Right? Because we need to get into the meditation now. So here's what we need to do. Otherwise, I know what you make me do. You keep getting me to talk and talk and talk and talk, and then you start asking questions. Swaminathan sir, I just have this little question, and then before we know it, it's 6 o'clock. One of these days, you're going to put a complaint into the complaints box. You say this is a meditation program. When was the last time we meditated? What you don't realize is you're meditating right now. Actually, we've never done any sermons. All we've done are meditation programs. I've been preaching, you have been meditating. Because what is meditation after all again? Reflecting on the truth. Well, is that not what we're talking about? If you're reflecting on it, which you can't do like this. You can't reflect on the truth like that. Right? Provided you're awake and you're contemplating on what it is I'm saying, you can of course reflect on the truth. But let me simplify what I just said, right? Because that might have been a little bit heavy. I'll boil it down to the very basics, so that if you weren't here last week, you can still go along with this session. We suffer because of attachment. Attachment is the cause of suffering. What else do we have as a cause of suffering? Attachment plus nothing else. Attachment is the only cause of suffering. It's the exclusive cause of suffering. You don't have any other causes. Attachment is the only cause of suffering. We know this. Mothers die, fathers die, children die, pets die, houses collapse, right? Things happen all day long. But you're not crying right now. You're not weeping right now because it wasn't your mother that died. Every second, 2 people die. Right, how about that? Every second, 2 people die. But you seem to be fine with that. That's because you have not made a connection between you and that person. A mental connection does not exist. So then, this mental connection is what transforms a natural process into an artificial suffering. Events that happen in the world, they're all natural. People dying, is that natural or artificial? Natural. The more you engage with me in conversation, the least it will be for you to understand this. Right? People dying in this world, is that natural or artificial? It's natural. People being born, is that natural or artificial? Natural. Cars crash. Accidents, natural or artificial? Natural. Earthquakes, storms, fires, tsunamis, natural or artificial? They're all very natural things. They're all very natural things. Natural things happen in this world, but suffering is artificial. How does something natural give rise to something artificial? That should pose a question in your mind. Because suffering is artificial. How do you know that suffering is artificial? You've got to make yourself suffer. So what are you doing right now? Making yourself suffer. No, it is. It's the sad matter of the fact. We are actually producing suffering right now. For every chitta that runs avidya pacha, every chitta that is based in ignorance leads to suffering. But whenever you are contemplating on anicca dukkha anatta, in other words, reflecting on the truth, that does not lead to suffering. That is where you have the kusala sankara, as opposed to the abhisankara, which is what leads to one's to suffering. Anyway, that's again getting heavy. Right? Let's put all that to a side again. So, in really simple terms, natural events happen in this world. People die, houses collapse, people lose jobs, right? People fall ill, heart attacks, all sorts of things. But mental suffering is artificial. How does a natural event generate artificial mental suffering? The missing link there is attachment. Attachment is so powerful, it can transform a natural event to an artificial phenomenon. See how powerful attachment is? It can transform a natural event to an artificial phenomenon. That's how powerful attachment is. And we are all blessed with attachment. Blessed? Cursed. We're all cursed with attachment. And attachment, remember, has nothing to do with duties and responsibilities. How do we know? There's no better example. I know of no one else who fulfilled such duty, such responsibility, established a sasana for 5,000 years. For whose benefit? Not his. That much we know. How come? He's not here today to read the results of that. Or perhaps it was because, in times to come they would read about him in books. Maybe that's why he did it. Or maybe it would say on his tombstone, he established the Shasana for 5,000 years. Do you think that's why he did it? No, this is the Buddha we are talking about. If you know anything about the Buddha, you'll know he's not like that. He does nothing for his own good. All of that is for the good of others. Right? So, duty and responsibility has nothing to do with attachment. Attachment only has something to do with one thing. And what is that? Suffering. Attachment can only bring suffering. Suffering can only be brought up by attachment. It's both ways. A only brings B, and B can only be brought up by A. Attachment only brings suffering. Suffering can only be caused by attachment. Attachment does not bring about 2 or 3 different things. It only brings about one thing, and that one thing is suffering. That is why I keep trying to reassure you folks that by treating attachment, don't worry that you're going to be giving up everything else. Because suffering is the only thing that you can give up by giving up attachment. You can't give up anything else, even if you wanted to. This is why I think one of these days I explain to you, if you come to this monastery, come to one of our sermons and say, Swaminatha, my wife, pain in the back, how do I get rid of her? My answer to you is, sorry, I don't know. Swaminatha, my children, such a pain, how do I give them up? Sorry sir, I don't know. My car, always giving me trouble, how do I give it up? Sir, I'm sorry, I don't know. I haven't studied that. But you ask me, Swaminatha, how do I give up suffering? Sit down. Suffering has nothing to do with your wife or your husband or your car or your children. Nothing. 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 That's why I say attachment has only one thing to do with it, and that is suffering. Suffering can only be brought up by one thing, and that is attachment. This is a single relationship between these two things, one to one. It's not one to many, and it's not many to one either. It's one to one relationship between these two things. Is that clear to all of you? That by eradicating attachment, you will not eradicate anything else. Don't hope for that. That will be disappointment. You will be disappointed if by eradicating attachment you think you're going to be giving up other things also. It won't happen. You can only give up suffering by giving up attachment. Okay, so why do we attach then? If attachment is the cause of suffering, if we eradicate attachment, then suffering will be gone. Yes or no? Yes. If attachment is the cause of suffering, let's find out the cause of attachment so that we can work on that. Therefore attachment will be done with, and therefore suffering will be dealt with. The causes which lead one to attach is a belief system. Again, good news. What if it was this? What if it was something tangible? What if it was something material? What if it was the planets and the stars and the moons and the skies? What would you do? Attachment is caused by a belief system. What's good about that? All you need to do is what? Change your belief system. All you need to do is change your belief system. How difficult is it to do that? Well, I've been listening to your sermon, Swami, now for about 2 years now. Nothing happening. No, here's the thing. Something is happening. It's just gradually, little by little. Thode. Don't expect instant results. Anything instant doesn't last very long. How long does instant noodles last? Less time than it takes to prepare it, right? Puta, noodles is ready. Where is it? Thank you, Hummy. How long does instant money last? No, very long. That's why all these get-rich-quick schemes, scams. Life doesn't work like that. If you get something instantly, you can't last. It won't last. You can't hold on to it for very long. Because what happens then is you have gotten what you desired, not what you deserved. Something will only last with you if it's something you deserved. If you've gotten something you deserved, that can't be taken away from you. Even if it did, it would soon be rejoined with its rightful owner. In very simple terms, this is coming back a little bit into day-to-day lives. Right? If you treat your family well, if you treat your husband well, if you treat your wife well, if you treat your children well, let's put children to a side for a moment. If you treat your husband well, you don't need to fear that he may one day forsake you. Even if perhaps one day he goes away with somebody else, pretty soon he's going to come back. If you treat your wife well, if you look after her well, if you care for her, fully and honestly, even if there is a day where she leaves for someone else, with someone else, don't worry, she'll be back. That's why they say, true freedom is not in lock in the cage, leave the door open. Let the bird fly out if it wishes to. If it's not flying out, then you know it's here to stay. All you need to do is take care of it, tend to it, look after it. See, it applies in all aspects of life, and the same goes in Nibbana also. Don't expect instant results. Some people, they come along for meditation programs expecting instant results. When you ask them what instant results do they expect, flashes of light, levitation, to be able to float, walk on water, eat frogs. Yeah, I got that one day. Why do you come to meditation? Because I want to eat anything, even a frog. You'll be surprised at things we get to hear. Instant results, don't go for that. Let time sort that out for you. All we need to do is do what we need to do. Again, what I mean by that is work on the causes. The result will manifest itself when it's time. Attachment is the result of causes. The causes being a belief system, right? And that belief system is that this world is pleasurable. Ashwadai sapai sarai. That pleasure is there to be gained from this worldly existence. You can use this clock to do what? To do what? To tell the time. Right? What has this clock been manufactured for? For what purpose? To tell the time. Okay. This is a voice recorder. What was this manufactured for? It's a voice recorder. Let's try that again. What has this been manufactured for? To record voice. Okay. This is a remote control. What has this been manufactured for? To control remotely. Come on, it's in the says on the tin, right? It's a remote control. It has been manufactured to control remotely. See, things that have come into being into this world have come along with a specific purpose. Each of these things have a very specific purpose. This has a very specific purpose. Yes or no? Yes. This cup, this bowl here, that has a very specific purpose. This fan, it has a very specific purpose. This robe, it has a very specific purpose. Is there anything wrong with me using this robe for that purpose? Would I suffer if I were to do that? I use this robe to cover my body. Would I suffer as a result of that? No, but what if I use this to do something for which it was not manufactured or produced to do? That's when we go into problems. This beetle leaf, it came into this world for a very specific purpose. If you try to do something with this for reasons other than what this was manufactured to do, manufactured or came into this world to do, that's when you start suffering. This didn't come into this world so you could chew on it. But that's what people have chosen to do today. It's a beetle leaf. It's not to chew, but people chew it. This is what has led to cancers. It's carcinogenic. That's not what you were supposed to do with it. That's why I can use this to fan myself. What if I use this to hit somebody? What might be the consequences? I'd probably get hit back. Yes or no? See, if you use something to achieve the purpose that it was built for, or came into this world for, there'd be no problem with that. Now let's think about something a little bit more practical. Flower. You see that flower? What did that come into this world for? Why do plants have flowers? Yeah, to propagate its species, for pollination. It didn't come into this world so that you could go looking at its beauty. That's not what it's for. It came into this world so that it could achieve its purpose, and that purpose was to propagate the species. The plant to which that flower belongs. Of course, this is a plastic flower, but you get the point. If you use something for the purpose that it was designed for, there's no problem with that. Food, everyone's favorite. What is the purpose of food? No, I'm not asking why you eat food. I'm saying, what is the purpose of food? Huh? To sate your hunger. Is that what you use it for? Okay, look down for a moment. I'll ask you to raise your heads up in a moment. See, if you use food to sate hunger, would there be any problem with it? No. So why are you suffering today because of food? Why are people overweight today? Why are people on diabetic pills? Why are people on high cholesterol pills? Why are people on high pressure tablets? Using food for something it was not designed for. Food was never designed for the purpose of pleasure. Food never came into this world for the purpose of joy. It came into this world for the purpose of sating one's hunger or quenching one's thirst. That is what food came into this world for. But what did man do? He started to experiment. What else might we be able to use food for? To taste the taste buds or to please the taste buds. Using food for the wrong purpose. Drugs. Medical drugs. You can use it to treat yourself if you're ill, but an overdose could kill you. See, use it for the wrong purpose and the consequences can be dire. Water. Is it not dangerous? Of course it is. Water is both good and bad. Use it for the right purpose, it's great. Use it for the wrong purpose, it can kill you. Yes or no? Fire. Use it for the right purpose, great. Use it for the wrong purpose, it could kill you. See, the environment is innocent. Don't know why people keep pointing the finger out there that way. The environment is innocent. Nothing in this world, folks, believe you me, nothing in this world came into this world to make you suffer. Nothing. Nothing in this world came into this world to make you suffer. It is you who are misusing these things, and as a result of which you suffer. Now the same concepts apply to sight, sound, smell, taste and touch. These 5 senses are there to help you live. Through these 5 senses you know now that your mind receives Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, right? These are simply instruments to help you live. Like a walking stick is an instrument. It's a tool, it's a device to help you get about. But you can use it to hit somebody. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, sight, sound, smell, taste and touch, whichever way you want to look at this, are simply there to help you live. Live how? Happily, with no mental suffering, forever. See? When you think about it, Nibbana is simply me teaching you, well, not me, it is the principle that teaches us how to live with oneness with the environment. How to use things for the right purpose. That's what Nibbana is. How much more practical can a philosophy get? Buddhist philosophy is there to teach you that this is simply an instrument to tell the time. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to express to you. Buddhist philosophy is simply there to help you understand that this instrument is there only to help you tell the time and nothing else. People suffer because they use this for other purposes. Buddhist philosophy is there to help you understand that this flower came into this world only for a very specific purpose, and that is for the propagation of the species. It is to use it for its rightful purpose. In other words, see, I'm simplifying this. Buddhist philosophy is the manual of life. It's the manual of life. Because what it teaches us is live life. Live life by making use of all the things that you come across. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, whichever way you want to look at it. Use it for only its rightful purpose. Isn't that a manual for life? How can you simplify this anymore? Buddhism is a manual for life. It teaches you how to use your eyes properly. You went to school, you learnt about your eyes, but you never learned how to use it. I remember in my biology lesson at school, they taught me this is how the eye is formed. You got the outer covers, you got the inner cover. I can't remember the terms now. Your retinas, your thingamabobs, this, that and the others, right? I can't remember these things now, right? So they taught me about how the eye works, but they never taught me how I should be using it. At school I learned how the tongue works, but I never learned how I should be using it. At school I learned how my nose works, but I never learned how to use it, or how I should be using it. Buddhist philosophy taught me how it is I should be using my eyes. How I should use it. Having learned that, now I know how to not misuse it. Misusing is what leads one to suffering. As we said, use these objects for its rightful purpose and you will not suffer. Use a knife for its rightful purpose and you will not suffer. Use water for its rightful purpose and you will not suffer. Use the sun for its rightful purpose and you will not suffer. But use it wrongly, misuse it, and you will suffer. You will suffer. So Buddhist philosophy is the manual for life. It teaches you how to live happily, without suffering, forever. That's what Nibbana is. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. Again, like I said last week, at the end of the last two sermons, I said, thank you for coming. I'm going to have to say the same thing again. Thank you for coming. You know why? Because as I talk to you, things are connecting in my mind. I'm feeling euphoric right now. I feel like I'm on drugs. Not that I know what it feels like, I've never tried it. Caveat. This must be what it must be like to be on drugs. This is so euphoric. This is so ecstatic. Buddhist philosophy is the manual of life, folks. You need to get this. You need to understand this. You must. Life is not worth living unless you understand Buddhist philosophy. It teaches you how to use your eyes. It teaches you how to use your ears, your nose, your tongue, your five senses. It teaches you how to use your body correctly. What if you don't learn it? Then you will misuse it. What happens when you misuse? You will suffer. Use it correctly and you won't suffer. Misuse it and you shall suffer. This is what I said. Buddhist teaching is not about everyone else. It's not about everyone else in the room. It's about the donkey. It's about you. See, it teaches you how to use your eyes correctly, not the other person. It teaches you how to use your ears correctly. It teaches you how to use sight, sound, smells, taste and touch correctly for its rightful purpose. Understand that and you're free of suffering. Because these five senses, as well as the five sensory inputs, and the sense impressions which are Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, all of these things are there simply to help you live happily. Happily. Without any mental suffering. Forever. Are you feeling me, folks? Oh, how I wish I could give you the feeling that's in my heart right now. I hate the fact that we have to use words to communicate. If only I could just give you what I'm feeling right now. You'd be jumping up and down. This is so beautiful. This is so ecstatic. This is euphoric. This is why I say you must give your children this euphoria. This is ambrosia. This is food for the gods. This is the food of the Aryas. Beats any other food. You have to give your children this food. This is beautiful. This is so empowering, so energizing. We need to learn to use our eyes correctly. the misuse of these organs, the misuse of our sense of sight, sound, smell, taste and touch begins with a misunderstanding, a wrong set of beliefs. And these wrong set of beliefs is simply our understanding or our belief that there is pleasure to be gained from this. Of course, you can substitute anything you want with this. I'm just using this as an example. What was this brought into this world for again? To tell the time. So what are you doing using this for the sake of pleasure? Who gave you that permission? Who said you could use this for the purpose of pleasure? It was brought into this world for you to tell the time. Not for pleasure. Use it for pleasure and you will suffer. Use it to tell the time and you're okay. Why is it wrong to use this for the purpose of pleasure? Because there's no pleasure to be had in this. Pleasure is simply relief from vexation. Do you not remember the example we used to talk about? Guy who goes into the bakery, he asks for a haircut. How many times can you walk into a bakery and keep asking for a haircut before you get one? You'll get one. Won't be a haircut. No, you get two. You know, as they say in Sinhala, but man dena dekat dang. You get two. You won't get the haircut. Why? Why won't you get a haircut walking into a bakery? It's not the barbers. It's a bakery. They don't do haircuts at the bakery. They do buns and bread and cakes and things like that. And pastries. You can buy that stuff. You can't go and ask for a haircut from a bakery. What are you doing with this again? Come on now. Oh really? That's it? What else are you looking for it from this? What else are you looking for from this? Pleasure. This is the closest objects I could pick up. Others I could... let's use a flower. I hope Mettara Mahamudra will forgive me. What was this brought into this world for? Propagate what? Me? No, this species. The species that this flower belongs to, right? That's what this flower was brought into this world for. So if you wanted to propagate this species of plant, there's no problem with taking one of these and planting it in your garden, and you'll have more of these plants in a short while, in a few days, weeks, months' time. But is that the only reason you took and planted this in your garden? What else? Pleasure. That's why I say you don't grow flowers because flowers are flowers. Yes or no? You grow flowers because flowers are what? Beautiful. You expect beauty to come from what? The flower. Was that what the flower came into this world for? No. It came into this world to propagate its species, not give you beauty. How dare you? How dare you walk up to a flower and say, "Hey flower, give me beauty." Flower's going to say, "What? That's not what I came into this world for. Go away." How dare you? Who gave you the right to walk up to a flower and say, "Flower, give me beauty"? Which bit of this flower is beauty? Isn't that again like going into the bakery and asking for a haircut? Which bit of this flower is beauty? There is no beauty in this. Because beauty is what? In the mind of the beholder. So how dare you then bring this flower, plant it in your home and say, "Right, look at it, okay, beautiful, beautiful. Why are you looking at the flower? Beauty is in the mind. Why are you looking at the flower? Do you not go walk into gardens? Now if ever you've gone to, abroad, Vienna, or wherever, right? People go look gardens. Sightseeing. Why do people go sightseeing? What is the seeing that you are expecting to see when you get there? What do you expect to see when you get there? Something beautiful, huh? Something pleasurable. Why do you think they have pleasure? Why do you go to see the sight expecting pleasure? Because pleasure is not in there. Best evidence of that is what? There's a guy who was born in Singapore. He's lived in Singapore all his life. When it's time to go on a holiday, he goes to the UK. There's a guy in the UK. He was born in the UK. He lives in the UK all his life. When he wants to go on holiday, he goes to Singapore. You ask him why? Because Singapore is beautiful. If Singapore was actually beautiful, why did the guy who was born and brought up in Singapore leave that country, go looking for beauty in England? Why did he go to the UK? Is that not solid evidence that beauty is not in a country or a waterfall or in a side or in a flower garden? Are you feeling me? So then why do you look at this and say, give me beauty? That's where you went wrong. Because now you're abusing this. You're misusing this. Not just the flower, you're misusing your eyes. You're misusing your mind. Expecting something that's not there in this. The moment you do that, you will suffer. The moment you ask something that's not in this, you will suffer. So stop asking for it. See, again, it's simply a belief system. Buddhist philosophy will teach you, will change your belief system, will help you understand beauty is not in this. That's why, although you find this beautiful, I don't. Or, I find this beautiful and you don't. Because beauty is not in the flower. So if you ask for it, you shall be disappointed. So if you don't like to be disappointed, then don't ask. Don't ask, because you will be disappointed. But you can't not ask for as long as you believe that it's still there. Remember when we used to play this game with our friends? You used to clench your fists, right? Like there was something in there, but your hands were empty. But you clenched your fist nevertheless and said, right, go, tell me which one you want. You hold it. I'm not doing Gangnam Style, by the way, okay? You hold this to your friends and go, right, which one do you want? Now you know that both your hands are empty. There's nothing in either of them. So the friend might come and say, that one. No, there's nothing in that. And then you hide your hand behind your back. No, show me the other one. No, there's nothing in it. No, show me the other one. There's nothing in it. Show me the other one. He's not going to let you go until you show him the other one. Why? Because for as long as your belief system tells you that it's still there, you will keep looking. It might go so far that you actually fall out with this friend for something as simple as, why did you fall out with your friend? Because he didn't show me what was in the other one. Little, these things can become big problems. He fell out with his friend because he didn't show what's in the other one. Not because of that. That's not why. Not because he didn't show what was in the other one. It's because you thought there was something in the other one. It's your belief system. See, peace can only be found, folks, when you're willing to change your belief system. When you're willing to change yourself. When you're willing to allow yourself to be challenged. If you don't allow yourself to be challenged, you will never learn. You will never grow. Another lesson I gave my dad today. Because he was a teacher a long part of his life. And you know the problem with teachers. They like to? Yeah, you know it. They do more talking and less listening. So the thing is, when you listen less and talk more, your belief system cannot be changed. Because when you're talking, you're simply expressing your belief system. For a belief system to be changed, you got to get in new information. New information has to come either to your sense of sight or your sense of sound. These are the two mechanisms, methods to which, avenues to which a change of a belief system can take place. So when I start talking, guess what my dad does? The moment I start saying something, he has to share his experience of that. He has to share his view of it. So I just sat down, I just shut up and listen. And listen. Are you done now, Pachi? Oh no, okay, right. Carry on. And listen. Are you done now? Yes, I'm done now. Right, so what I was trying to tell you, and I start again. Oh yeah, and so I know something. Well, he again starts the conversation. Really, if you come one of these days and listen to one of those conversations, I do very little talking. He comes all that way to come and tell me everything he knows. Very little does he take from me. But hopefully I managed to get into his mind today. Talk less, listen more. And then I had an opportunity for him to speak with Guru Swami once. After I sat Guru Swami once, sat him down in front of him, I walked away, allowing them to have a conversation. And then the first thing he said is, Swami Nansi says, I talk too much. Guru Swami Nansi, do you think I talk too much? Guru Swami Nansi is very kind. You know what he said? Analytical people always talk a lot. People who always like to analyze things, it's the way scientists are. Because he never likes to hurt someone's feelings. Unlike me. You know that, don't you? I forget this is a meditation program. So let's go back to the principles we were talking about. It's a wrong belief system that led you to suffer. If you believe that you can use something for any other reason other than what it was designed for, what it came into this world for, things are all purpose-built. If you got a purpose-built flats, purpose-built. They were built for that purpose. They are not converted. You could convert a barn into a lodgings. That's a converted. But purpose-built is it was built from the first brick for that purpose. Like this clock, it was purpose-built to tell you the time, not for the purpose of pleasure. Use it for the purpose of pleasure and you shall suffer. This is why anicca, the understanding of anicca, is the realization, partly, that pleasure cannot be found in any material object, or any immaterial object for that matter. Pleasure is simply relief from vexation. That's partly what anicca is. The rest of it is, and this is an important part, the rest of it is, going back to the example of a guy walking into the barber's or bakery looking for a haircut, it's not only that they don't give you a haircut, but if you go and ask for a haircut at a bakery, the baker's gonna smash a pan on your head. So, not only did you not get your haircut, but you walk out with a big bump on your head. So it's not simply that things are void of pleasure. If you go looking for it, you will vex. This is why we say they are vexatious. Looking for joy is meaningless. Because joy is not to be found in material things or immaterial things for that matter. By immaterial, I don't mean insignificant, okay? By immaterial, I mean formless. Rupa and arupa. They can't be found in these things. So to look for it is meaningless. Therefore asara, anatta, meaningless, useless, futile. So once you get that into your minds, into your heads, now you understand that the production of a self with the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana is simply a meaningless task. In other words, the excursions for the purpose of pleasure by using Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana is meaningless. It's never to be found, never to be had. No man ever got pleasure out of the five. No man today gets pleasure out of the five. no man in the future will get pleasure out of the five. Pleasure is not to be found in the five. What is the five? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. If they are unfamiliar, you can simply think of it as sights, sounds, smells, tastes and touch. You can contemplate on it either way. Okay? So if you misuse something, misuse your eyes and you will suffer. Have you not sat in front of the TV for hours and hours and hours long, and then just to get up with red eyes, teary eyes? When you knew, I had probably switch off the TV now, but you just kept watching TV. Or sometimes perhaps when you're on your phone, you're in bed, use your phone and just keep scrolling, right? And now your eyes are getting tired, right? And really bad thing to do. Get into bed and keep browsing your phone, Facebook, whatever. Oh, sorry, I said the F word. Right? Using whatever, your mobile phone. When the lights are out, a real drain on your eyes. So you know you should stop now. Especially when you're starting to feel that pain, that little tinge, you know you have to stop. But you keep going. See, you're using eyes for purposes other than what it was designed for. The eyes are there simply to help you live, not to go on Facebook, not for the purpose of pleasure, not to go sightseeing. It's to get you from A to B. If A is your kitchen and B is your bedroom, it's to get you from the kitchen to the bedroom. That's what it's for. Not to help you travel the world and sightsee. Use it for that purpose and you will suffer. That's what it is. So understanding that is what helps us. Simply, pleasure is not to be found in any of these things. When you realize that, you will stop looking for pleasure in these objects. And you will use them simply for what they have been built for. Use it for their rightful purpose and you shall not suffer. See, I'm not talking about not living in this world. Live. But use the things you come across for their rightful purpose. Don't use it for things that are not what they were designed for. That is what causes suffering. Okay, so here's what we're going to be contemplating on now for a little while. I want you to reflect on anicca. Now I know there will be individuals of different levels of understanding, those who are regular listeners and those who are new today perhaps. So your understanding of anicca will be varied. We talked about how does one practice anicca joyfully, if you remember that, right? Like saying that this is fragile. Is that good news or bad news? This is fragile. Good news or bad news? Good news. What if I didn't know it was fragile? Now? Once it breaks, is it fragile now? No, now it's not fragile. Once it's broken, it's broken. It's a broken saucer. Now, it's a fragile saucer. So fragile is good information to have. Yes or no? Yes. Like the wet paint board on a bench. Is that good news or bad news? Good news. If not for that board, you'd sit on it and then get paint all over yourselves. What if these leaves were poisonous? Is that good news or bad news? These leaves are poisonous. Is that good news or bad news? Good news. Not knowing that, now that's bad news. See again, ignorance is what leads one to suffering. Ignorance is what leads one to fear. Ignorance is what leads one to attachment. And attachment then leads to fear. Attachment leads to suffering. Tanha jayati soko. Tanha jayati bhaya. So contemplate on anicca the way you have understood it. So either you do it by sensing it as a joyful reflection, as we have just explained, or by contemplating it as, think of anicca as the knowledge of, you shouldn't be using things for purposes other than what it was designed for. If you use something for purposes other than what it was designed for, then of course suffering entails. Suffering follows immediately along with that. Okay? So either of these two, you pick whichever one floats your boat. and then contemplate on that for a little while. But either way, as you reflect on it, you should end up with a smiley face. Not a sad face, and more importantly, not a sleepy face. Smiley face. Okay? So what we can do now is contemplate on anicca. The knowledge of anicca. If you don't have the knowledge of anicca, that's when you will suffer. Vexation can be prevented by the knowledge of vexatiousness. Let me repeat. Vexation can be avoided. Vexation can be prevented when one is knowledgeable about vexatiousness. Bend ahead, not you just passed a bend. A road sign says what? Bend ahead, not you just passed one. What's the point of saying that? I know I already passed one. So bend ahead, that's what the knowledge of vexation is. Okay, so let's contemplate on that for a little while. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Bliss of Nibbana, may I and all beings in all worlds be healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. Okay. So hopefully you reflected on the truth. What anicca is and its nature. It is a knowledge. The knowledge of the truth. And a knowledge which is so empowering. A knowledge which can only lead one to joy and to be able to live happily. When you know something's fragile, you're very careful when you're around it. Fragile hearts. Right? Some people have very fragile hearts. So you're very careful with your words when you're around people like that, right? You don't know when their feelings might be hurt. So you're very careful. So this is a knowledge that is empowering. So what I want you to do next is I want you to be able to link anicca with the times in your life where you experience conflict. So conflict is essentially where something happening that is not to your liking.
So usually you'll know this has happened when you experience things like anger. When you're annoyed with something. It doesn't have to always be someone, it could be something. You walk into your bedroom and you flick the switch and the light doesn't come on. There's a sound that the switch makes, right? You know you're angry when that sound now starts coming out of your mouth. Right? You tried a few times, doesn't work, and then now you start to imitate that sound as if that was the missing piece of the puzzle. So this is conflict. See how something as simple as a light not coming on can take away your mental peace. You shouldn't settle before that. You know, you and I, we are human beings. We shouldn't settle for things like that. You don't settle for injustice. You don't settle when someone shortchanged you. You don't settle when you see a child or a woman being abused. You don't settle for it when you see a poor man, a beggar, an old man being abused by bystanders or someone. You don't settle for things like that. What I'm saying is, why do you settle when your mind, when the mental peace of your mind can be taken away from something as little as a switch? Sometimes it can be even smaller than that. A grey hair. I love it when people look at each other. Tells me experience. A grey hair, right? Sometimes either on the head or on the chin. I've started getting some grey hairs, by the way. So old age is knocking on my door now. Good, these things ought to happen to encourage us. So conflict. The mind experiences conflict. It's painful when the mind experiences conflict. Sometimes it could just be a single word someone says. A well-meant word, but you received it in a different context. A lot of the time that is what it is. It wasn't really how it was said. It was more how it was received. That is usually the start of a lot of conflict between people. And usually ego gets in the way, and we're not humble enough to go and ask the person, hey, you said that thing. I'm not sure how you meant it, but it really hurt my feelings. Why did you say that? A lot of the time, simply because people don't go that extra step just to go and ask, why was it you said that? It hurt my feelings. They assume. Someone once told me how the word assume has been made. It's the as between you and me. So true. Because when the ass or the donkey gets in the way, now that kicks off a whole cocktail of problems. All you had to do was just go and ask the person without making assumptions. But the problem is, conflict is so strong, and the effects of it are so strong that it really gets the better of you. That's why they say walk away, take a walk around the block before you address the problem. Count to 10 before you actually try and deal with the problem. These are all anger management techniques which I think we've talked about in the past. But you've got to manage something which you have to learn to live with. But what I'm saying is, you don't need to live with this stuff. You can get rid of this stuff. Do you not have clutter at home? Like all brick and brack? Stuff that you just can't make your mind to get rid of? Hoarding? We Asians, we are very keen on this stuff, right? We just don't like to get rid of things. Just in case. Just in case you need it. Old newspapers, old shopping bags, brown paper bags, those tulip bags. Where do they go? Under the mattress? In the cupboard somewhere? Under a drawer? Somewhere? So yeah, we all have these habits. I didn't let go of them, they let go of me. So, when you don't want to throw away old stuff, now you need to learn to manage them. So have you heard of waste management? Because waste can only, it has to go somewhere on our planet. It's not like waste can go anywhere out of the planet. It has to stay within the planet. That's why they call it waste management. Because waste is always going to be there. Once you've produced it, it's there. You can only manage it. Anger, management. As in, you can't do anything about it. It's going to come. I just need to learn how to deal with it. If you ask me, that's a very defeatist mentality. You don't have to settle for that. But to do that, as in to overcome this overbearing force of anger, you need to be able to link it back to anicca. Because as we say, ignorance is the root cause of all suffering. So you need to be able to link anicca dukkha anatta, which is ignorance, or rather nicca sukhatta, which is ignorance, to anger. Because once you're able to do that, now you're able to tackle the problem. There's no other way to go from ignorance to wisdom other than anicca dukkha anatta, the contemplation and reflection of which. Okay? So think about the times in your lives where you have experienced conflict. Even something as little as a button. You're rushing for work, buttoning your shirt up, and a button comes off. Just think about that, right? You're on a schedule, there's an appointment or a flight you need to catch, or the bus, or the driver's waiting for you, whatever, and you're going to get stuck in traffic. Right, a button comes off. That can completely give you what they call a bad hair day. Have you ever had one of those? A bad hair day? Or a flat tire? Bad hair days. The tank's empty. That's a bad hair day. And then what usually happens is after that, everything as if planned. Have you not experienced that? Like some days, like everything as if planned, everything goes wrong. You get out of the house and you slip and have a fall. Then you somehow get back up on your feet, get into the car, and you pull out on the road and someone comes and bumps into you. See, when everything seems to go wrong, there's a reason why that happens. I'll tell you why that happens. So then you go up, you keep driving, you get out, get your insurance, whatever paperwork, and you get back in the car, and you keep driving, and then rail tracks, and you have to stop there, and now you're being delayed there as well. So everything's going wrong, and then engine heats up. It's like as if someone's planning all this for you. Someone's taken out their vengeance on you, and then you somehow pull up into work, and all the car parking slots have been taken up. There's a reserved slot for you, and some buggers come and parked up there as well. Right? See, bad hair days. Now you got to go around the blocks. Where can I park? Where can I park? Drive 2 or 3 times and you somehow pull up somewhere. You get out just to go and inform someone whether it's okay to park there. By the time you get back, you've already got a parking ticket. Right? So, these type of days people have. And you begin to wonder, how come? How come everything that can go wrong is going wrong? What's this? What's going on? And that's when you look at the stars and think, is it you? Is it the stars? Am I having an inauspicious day? Should I not have set out to go to work today, just get out of home? Should I have just stayed in bed today? You begin to wonder. Then you somehow get into the office and you see the lift, right? You need to catch the lift to get into the 2nd floor. By the time you get there, the lift door shuts in front of your face. It's packed. So now you have to now wait for the next lift, or wait for the lift to come back down. And you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and then there's a notice on the top, lift out of service. Now, stairs. So now you start taking the stairs. You take the stairs, keep going up, and then someone spilled a coffee and you slip on that. And you fall again. You get back up on your feet, and now your newly ironed, pressed shirts, coffee. Right, now you start swearing at the person who spilled the coffee. You somehow work your way into the office room, and as you walk into the office, someone sat on your desk, on your table, or someone's taken up your seat. You just don't want to deal with this today, right? And you say, right, dude, you have no idea how I'm feeling right now. Get out. You don't want to mess with me today. I'm about to burst, so please don't mess with me. Then the guy gets up, gives a pat on the back. Don't worry about these things, dude. And he walks away. Sometimes maybe making a unnecessary joke about your height or your weight or something like that. Unnecessary jokes, right, which is a stab in your ego. You take a seat and then you switch on your computer, and 101 emails in your inbox. Again, things just keep going wrong, and your boss comes and taps on your shoulder. Where's my report? Just keeps going on and on and on and on. Have you not had days like this? Maybe not exactly this order, but similar. There's a reason why this happens. Remember, you will get what you deserve, not what you desire. We attract trouble. We become what we think. When you continue to have negative thoughts, you attract negative forces towards you, negative energies towards you. This may all be bad karmas that you've done in the past, now bearing fruit. But the problem is, bad karmas cannot come and bear fruit when you are in a good state of mind. That's why in the Ratana Sutra they say, Pubbeta kata punyata. Before you do engage in something, try and focus your mind on something meritorious. Our ancestors had a habit. I hope you still do this. I checked with Appachi. Gladly they're still doing it. At home we had a Buddha statue, and we made it a habit at home. No matter what the reason is, before you set out, before you leave home, you have to worship the Buddha. So I'm glad to hear that he's continued to do it. I want you all to start doing that. Doesn't have to be a big statue. Little statue, tiny statue, that's still okay. You don't need a statue if the Buddha is inside of you. But for some, you haven't come that far yet. That's okay, because we all start somewhere. See, that's the reason. Have you not seen how some people, before they set off, they get into the car, and what do? Right? Bus drivers, van drivers, right? They worship the steering wheel. Right? 3 times round the steering wheel. Right? They do like this. Have you seen that? People today ask, why are you worshipping the steering wheel? What has the steering wheel ever done for you? Why do you worship the steering wheel? Are you saying the steering wheel Vandina Gatha also? The thing is, it's not the steering wheel that you're worshipping. Our ancestors had meaning behind all these things that they used to do. This is the Sihela Gati. Our great forefathers, before they went into the paddy fields, they took their, the mammoty? Yes. And as they walked into the paddy field, they would do the same. Worship. But it's not really worshipping the actual tool or the instrument. They worship the noble triple gem. That's why 3 times. Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. These entities of infinite virtue. And these entities of infinite quality. Infinite greatness. So when you contemplate on these great qualities, what happens is you now start attracting good energies, good vibes. A materialistic person might ask, well, How do you know it's there? What if it is there? That's my counter-argument. Like when people ask Swaminathan, you talk about the hells. What if it's not there? My counter-argument is, what if it is there? What if? What if it's actually there? Right? Because you should always err on the side of caution. Always err on the side of caution. What if it's actually there? So what if these energies are actually there? The law of attraction dictates that whatever state of mind you have, if it's positive, then you attract the positive energies that surround you. You're surrounded by positive energies, positive vibes. If you continue to have negative thoughts, negative emotions, negative feelings, then what you attract are negative energies. So here's how this whole thing started. Remember that button that came off the shirt? That's how this guy started to have a bad day. It wasn't a bad day after all. It was just a normal day. It could have come off for anybody. It was just a random incident. What happened was, this is how he chose to respond to that event. Conflict. The moment the button came off, he cursed it and cussed it. Wretched button. See, now, negative emotions. That negative emotion set off a chain reaction. Now those emotions, those feelings, those negative thoughts, those negative energies started attracting negative thoughts, negative energies, negative emotions. All the bad karmas and vipakas which are waiting to bear fruit. Now an opportunity has been arisen for such karmas to reap fruit as vipakas. However, on this occasion, had he contemplated on anicca, dukkha and anatta, reflected on it's just the way it is. In fact, it's perfect the way it is. Yes, I need to get my button back on the shirt. I'm not going to go to work like this. But this event does not have to leave a dent on my mental happiness. Because there you have a choice. You have a choice there. These are the moments where you need to reflect on anicca. You need to be empowered. You need to have anicca as part of your arsenal. So you can use it when you need it. When do you need it? All the time, every time. But at least when you have these moments where you are sensing conflict, remember, the next event that is about to happen will be determined. Let's say 85%, 90%. I would go as far as saying 99%. The next event will be determined by how you respond to this event. So now you can't say that was just coincidence. What happened now? Coincidence. What's going to happen next is wholly dependent on how you're going to respond to this event. That's why when the button comes off, if you start cursing the button, what happens now is you have now kicked off to chain reaction. Because life can take us in a multitude of paths. At this moment, what you choose to do now will determine what's going to happen next. It's not like it's all pre-written. That's a wrong idea to have. It's not pre-written. It's not pre-written. It's not predetermined. But what you do now, you set forth the causes which determine the next result. It's cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. The effect of this is the cause of the next. It's cause and effect. That's how it works. So don't think it's all destined. But if it's all destined, then why should we do anything? Let's not bother. If I'm not destined to become an arahant until 5 million births, then why should I bother now? Right? Then people have this idea of why should I? People lose interest, people lose energy and stamina. That's the wrong idea to have. That again makes you feel powerless. All that powerful energy that you had when you began to understand anicca, all of that is lost when you begin to believe in destiny. I don't believe in destiny. I don't want to be destiny's child. Ha. I believe in cause and effect. That's good enough for me. Because what that tells me is suffering is the effect of causes. This is coincidence. The button came off. Yes. How I respond to this event now will determine what's going to happen next. You can set off a chain reaction, positive or negative. How many times have you had a bad day at work, come home, right? Because of how you responded to those events, you come home with a long face, right? The wife, as usual, opens the door and says, "Hey darling, how was work today?" Now because you were so tensed with what happened at work, you take the full brunt of that out on your family. How many times might you have experienced similar things happen, either this way or that way? See, what could have been, you changed. This is why it's called a karma. Because vipaka is what an arahant experiences. Whatever comes, comes. But with karma, you change the path of things constantly. You keep changing, keep altering. It's like a jigsaw, you keep changing the pieces of the puzzle. Question, madam? Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's a vipaka. That's why I say you could think of it as a coincidence. But how you respond to that? How you respond to that is what's most important. Because if you can reflect, if you can contemplate on anicca, how this event is vexatious, not vexing, vexatious. Now you can prevent vexation from kicking in, like the fragile label on it. In fact, your button should always have "could come off at any moment" written on it. Yes or no? Yes. What's the nature of all buttons? Could come off at any moment. What's the nature of all tires? Could go flat at any second. What's the nature of all people? Not old people. All people. Could irritate you at any time. Could die at any moment. See, this is a knowledge. All people could die at any moment. That's a knowledge. If they're dead, well, that's an event. Now it's an event. Tire's gone flat. That's an event. Tire could go flat. That's knowledge. Why do you carry a spare wheel with you? In case. Because you have knowledge. You can premeditate what might happen. Knowledge is powerful. You can plan for this. So really, every day you button your shirt, whether it comes off or not, what I propose to you is, as you button your shirts, think to yourself, this could come off the next moment. And the next one, yep, it could come off the next moment. Next button, yep, it could come off right now. And then if it does come off, I knew it. See, now you could face that event positively, because you were just waiting for something to go wrong. So now it's no longer going wrong. It's just an event. It's when you expect X and Y happens, you say something's gone wrong. But if you're okay with anything, that could come off at any moment. The tire could go flat any moment. The light could go red any moment. You're always expecting that. You're always okay with whatever. See, that is how you're able to link events to anicca. And when you are constantly in that state of mind, this is what Satara Satipatthana is. A state of awareness whereby your set of beliefs determine and dictate that your entire existence is anicca. By existence I mean all the sights, sounds, smells, taste and touch that come your way. It's all anicca. It could change at any moment. It's not to your control. It's not to your command. It's vexatious. There's no pleasure to be had, so there's no point in attaching to it. But if you do attach to it, then of course you will suffer. Attach and you will suffer. That's what vexatious means. Attach and you will suffer. If you're attached, to the button to be on your shirt and not off, that's an attachment. Because you are attached to the fact that the button has to be on your shirt. Mentally, of course the button has to be on your shirt. Yes, I get that. That's how I call it a shirt, because it's got buttons on it. Right? But mentally, if that is what you're always expecting, now when the button comes off, that's when you have a bad day. And you see how if you respond to that, then accordingly, you have now set in forth a reaction. Your negative response to this defiles your mind with dvesha. And a defiled mind now starts to attract all the bad karmas that you have done. And they start coming to you. They start coming to you now. It's usually, law of attraction. Birds of a feather flock together. That's again the law of attraction. See, if an animal or a being is born in the hells, right, isn't that the perfect opportunity for karma to start giving all the bad karmas, all the bad vipakas to be attracted to that being? All a being needs to do is to be born in the hells. To be born as a dog or a cow or some kind of beast, right? And now a lot of the bad karmas that they've done start being attracted to that being. When someone's in the heavens, then good things that you've done start being attracted. Because it's your nature which determines what kind of forces in nature are attracted to you. Your nature determines what gets attracted to you from nature. And that, by the second nature, I mean karma vipaka. So you have a choice there. This is why I say you should empower yourself, whereby when the button comes off, you are prepared for it. You were prepared for it. So when the button comes off, you can just go, yeah, I knew that was happening. See, when you can say that, now where's the problem? Where's the problem now? If you knock your hand on this and this falls and breaks, yeah, I knew that was coming. Because what is the nature of this? Fragile. Would it not only be a fool who would not think this is fragile? Knowing that this is fragile, accepting that this is fragile, is a sign of strength or a sign of weakness? It's a sign of strength. It's a sign of intelligence. While it's fragile, for you to think, no, it's not fragile, nothing's going to happen to it, that's a sign of foolishness. So to think that you're not going to die one day, that's a sign of foolishness. That's why you prepare for it. So you can actually deal with a lot of conflict in your lives by contemplating on anicca, and that is by expecting that things can go wrong any time, any moment. Any moment they can change course. When you're able to accept that, when you're prepared for that, you can live life happily, with no mental suffering, and forever. So, conflict is something that you will all experience with your family, in your families, right? With spouses, your children, at the workplace, with your co-workers, with your colleagues, your bosses, your subordinates, right? The people who lead the country. These are, there's always opportunity for one to get into conflict if you choose to. Conflict is not natural. Conflict is artificial. All of suffering is artificial after all. Now just think about it, right? You step out into the garden and a thorn pricks your foot. There's usually a reaction to that. There's the physical pain, but do you not begin to frown? Just think about your forehead. What happens to your forehead when that happens? Right? Go like that. Ouch! What's all this about? What happened is like 6 feet below. Why is there a frown up here? If anything, it's your foot that should be frowning. Because it's the foot that's experiencing the pain. What's all this about? This is all emotion. Why? Because you had an expectation. Those kind of things shouldn't happen to people like me. Shouldn't happen to people like me because I'm a good person. How can things like that happen to a good person like me? Even a mosquito bite. There are two types of pain you experience with a mosquito bite. One is the physical, one is the mental. That's why you see a mosquito, you go, what's all this about? What's all this? See, next time you feel anger, walk in front of a mirror and ask yourself, what's all this? Put a little notice up on your mirror. What's all this? Because next time you walk in front of me, you see a grey hair. And you go, and then on the mirror it will say, what's all this? That can be your karma sthana. In our toilets, the sanghas we have, our Swami's house is written, Hati Vitara. So, you can do something similar. What's all this? What is all this? Now, what's with the face? Don't you ask like your friend sometimes, hey, what's with the long face today? What's wrong? Because we think this is normal. Someone shouts at me, and I go like that. That's normal, apparently. That's not normal. That's not normal. That's abnormal. Someone shouts at you, you should be like this. Unchanged. Now, that is what normality is. Because when you do that, what you're saying is, you want to hurt me? You want to hurt me? Okay, I'm going to hurt myself. You don't have to trouble yourself. Just let me know you want to hurt me and I'll hurt myself. That's what you're saying. Is it not? That is what you're saying. Someone comes and calls you a dog. You want to call me a dog? You want to call me a dog? You want to make me angry, right? No, don't you worry. I'll make myself angry. An arahant doesn't do that. Someone calls an arahant a dog. Okay. See, that's why I say you don't have to settle for you don't have to settle for less. You have so much potential. Don't settle for less. Look at all the things you've managed to achieve in your lives. You never settled for less, did you? All the things you've managed to achieve in your life so far. Be that your education, be that your wealth, be that your family, be that your what authority you hold in your workplace, in society. See how much you've managed to achieve in your lives. So why do you settle for less when you have so much potential? You shouldn't need to let someone else dictate when you're feeling happy and when you're feeling sad. That should be wholly 100% your decision. You should have the choice. Someone comes and shouts at you, do I want to feel happy or sad right now? I think I'm going to be happy. Someone comes and says really nice things about you. They praise you, they sing praises about you. Do I want to be happy or sad right now? See, what if you could do like that? You choose how you want to feel, but right now you can't. We talked about this in the past. You outsource your happiness. Don't outsource your happiness. Your happiness should be wholly your making. And you can't outsource your suffering anyway. This is the truth. Your suffering is your own making. So, whenever you experience conflict, right, link it back to anicca. Because it's most likely that in your positions in life, at the workplace, there'll be quite a few. There'll probably be at least one or two people in your command, your subordinates, who you will have to manage. And management is a funny business. When you have to manage someone, you want them to do what you want done. And you want one thing, they want something else. Right? So management is about getting what you want done from someone else. So you want them to think like you. When's that ever going to happen? You want someone else to think like you. For that to happen, they have to be you. Have you never had a fight with someone in the family, maybe a spouse, and go, why can't you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Why don't you get this? What I'm trying to explain to you, why don't you understand me? That's because they're not you. That's why. Because chances are the other person's asking you the same question. Why don't you understand what I'm trying to tell you? See, conflict. If you're able to reflect on anicca, in these moments, you will experience real victory. You will experience real peace of mind. Because disparity is very normal. For things to be not the same is very normal. We just don't like to accept that. For things to be dissimilar is very normal. Because it is causes which determine X and it is causes which determine Y. Different causes, well, of course, different results. That's all it is. To want X and Y to be the same, vexatious. Link it back to anicca. Link it back to anicca. So whenever something goes wrong, right? Whenever something happens that disturbs your mental peace, that is a threat to your mental peace, stop. Take a moment. Contemplate on the Buddha's teaching. Why do I allow myself to do this to myself? Why do I allow not her to do this to myself? Why do I allow myself to do this to myself? That's what you should be asking yourself, because that is the empowering question. Why do I allow her to do this to me? That is not empowering. That is slavery. Why do I let him do this to me? That's not empowering. Because no one ever did anything to anybody else. Certainly not mentally. Mentally, you have always done things to yourselves. So if someone says something and it makes you feel bad, the question you should be asking is, why do I, what? Allow myself to do this to myself. Never ask, why do I allow him to do this to me? Why do I allow her to do this to me? Why do I allow them to do this to me? Because what you're doing now is, they're better than me. See, now you're comparing. This goes with ego. This goes hand in hand with ego. Inferiority. Why do I allow her to do this to me? So I am subordinate to you. I shouldn't allow her to do this to me. No one's doing anything to you. You're doing it to yourself. Why do I allow myself to do this to myself? That is what you should be asking yourself. So link this back to anicca. The anicca that you contemplated on a moment ago. Okay, I'm conscious of time. Practice this at home. Because there will be moments where you experience conflict. Right? I know some of you have started writing down your RDM codes, right? Your anger bank. Right? People have started putting these things into practice, and those who put it into practice will reap the results. There's no question about that. So at least, for the next week, just be mindful about the times when you feel anger, when you feel annoyed, when you feel resentment, when you feel frustrated, button coming off, shoelaces coming off, right? The old grey hair, someone saying something that hurt your feelings, and pause. All this time you ask the question, why do I allow him to do this to me? Why do I allow her to do this to me? Why do I allow it to do this to me? That's the question we've asked all our lives. Stop for a moment. Here's a better question to ask. Why do I allow myself to do this to myself? Why do I allow myself to do this to myself? Or why do I allow myself to do this to me? Now go and find an answer to that question. That is very empowering. You will feel like king. You will feel like Superman, I tell you. Because you will begin to realize there's not a soul in this world that can shake the way I feel, that can touch me. You will feel untouchable. You will feel formidable. You will feel so strong. You will feel invincible. No one can touch you. When you begin to understand that your suffering is your own making, you'll become the architect of your state of mind. I am my mind's architect. I choose how I feel. See, to be able to say that, how powerful is that? I choose how I feel. It's my choice how I feel. Don't outsource your feelings, your emotions to other people. Because then they can just walk all over you. Okay, before we conclude, I want to do the Arya Maitri for a short while. If you came along to yesterday's sermon, then at the end of yesterday's sermon we did it for a short while, but we'll do it today as well. As we reflect on the Arya Maitri, what I would like you all to reflect on is, of all the people who have helped you, right? All the people who have helped you get to where you are right now. Where you are right now is your choice, I believe. No one forced you to come here? No. So where you are right now is your choice. Right? While it is your choice, there are people who helped you be here. There are people who guided you. There are people who showed you the way. Perhaps they held your hand and walked you into the room. Perhaps they encouraged you. They extended a mental hand. Say, hold my hand, I'll help you. There are people who helped us. Perhaps it was your parents. Perhaps from your childhood, they encouraged you to do good things, to be generous. They encouraged you towards charity. And that is how you slowly but steadily and gradually, you began to move into the realm of the Dhamma. Perhaps it was not your habit to go to the temple every day, every other day, once a month even. But maybe you met a friend one day and said, what are you doing on the Poya day? Nothing much. Hey, guess what? I'm going to be at the temple. Why don't we go together? Maybe we can offer some flowers. Perhaps we can sit down and meditate for 5 minutes. Maybe we can speak to the Swaminatha and get some advice from him. You said, okay, let's see how it goes. And you went along with your friend. Little did you know that you were setting in forth a chain of reactions which brought you here today. See, often we forget the people that have helped us be here today. And that can easily happen. When you start climbing up the ladder of success, it's very easy to forget the people that we passed along the way. Because there will be a lot of people who gave us a push up the ladder. There will be a lot of people who pulled us up the ladder. They gave us a helping hand. It's important for us from time to time to remind ourselves of the greatness that people possess. These great qualities that people have, the great virtues that people have, as a result of which, the extension of which towards us, because we were so fortunate, led us to be here today. Also, on the flip side, there might have been incidents in your life, events in your life, which did not go to plan, which were calamitous, which left you heartbroken, which left you orphaned. Perhaps that was the reason you decided to walk into a temple and get some advice. Perhaps there were events which led to that happening in your life. Perhaps it was a loved one who left you, gave up on you, walked away, deserted you. And then it was in that moment in life you thought, I really need some advice right now. I just can't make my mind up by myself. I need to go and get some advice from someone. You went and spoke to a friend. They said, hey, I know someone who can give you great advice for this. By the way, listen to this CD. So just think about how it is what kicked off your journey to be here today. You'll all have that significant event in your life. Someone significant, something significant happened. That was the culmination of a huge amount of merits that you might have done throughout samsara. He was reaping fruit at that moment in time. Might have been your husband, might have been your wife, might have been your children. And then from that point forward, things that unfolded and how people helped you be here today. Maybe you saw an advert perhaps on a Skype group. Maybe there was an internet poster somewhere. Maybe it was an email, maybe it was a text message. Maybe there was a banner somewhere. Somehow or the other, you thought, I need to go and see what that's about. See, there were people behind all those things. Real people like you and I, behind all of those things. These are the people that changed our lives for the better, towards greatness. Do you all not believe, at least to some extent, that your lives have changed beyond your wildest imagination? How much have you changed from when you began this journey? How many milestones have you passed on your way here, from where you began? See, it's important we take from time to time a moment to reflect, look back, and be grateful to those who helped us be here. The joy that I experience today as I talk to you, every time I enjoy that euphoria, that ecstasy, I am reminded about the people that helped me get here. I talk about my parents quite a bit in the sermons. That's because I'm incredibly grateful to them. That's why I keep pestering them to come and meet me at the temple whenever they come down to Sri Lanka. Yeah, I might kid about them from time to time and tell of my dad from time to time about how he's more of a talker than a listener. But that's all because I feel so greatly about him. I'm so indebted. I hope you wouldn't mind me sharing this with you. When my dad allowed me to go into robes, he had no understanding what Nibbana was. Even only today he said, no, I'm still not sure what Nibbana is. Right? Just imagine, 28 years of my life. So I'm talking about myself not because I want you to think about how great my dad is. I want you to think about the people who helped you in your lives. Okay, so this is an example. When my dad decided to allow me to go into robes, I know for a fact that he had no clue what I was getting myself into. He hadn't the foggiest idea. And besides that, there were a lot of people who were talking against this. Also, for 28 years of my life, he had worked really hard to bring me up to a certain position in life, to a status that he thought was what success was all about. Right? He had made huge commitments. He and my dad had no reason to go to the UK if not for myself and my brother. So they endured all that on my behalf. So when my dad gave me up, he had every bit of attachment back then as he has today. Nothing's changed in the time being. I know today that letting go of something when you are so deeply and strongly attached to it is like ripping off a part of your body, especially when it's your blood and soul. Now I just can't even begin to imagine how my folks, how my mother, how my father might have made their minds up to give up this very thing that they worked hard 28 years of their life to foster, to care, to look after, and to bring up into this world, and just go, Putta, if that's what makes you happy, off you go. I just can't imagine how someone can actually bring themselves up to do that. Perhaps I would have struggled. That's why today, even when he can't stand up on his own 2 feet by himself, I feel both physically, literally and metaphorically, I need to be there for him. So the first people that I think about when I look back at my life and think about those events in my life, those significant events in my life which took me from goodness to greatness, my parents, they stand at the forefront. And then there were the people who were always by my side. the pillars of my strength, the pillars of my success. So I want you also to think about the people who changed your lives for the better. Perhaps you were someone who engaged in wrong deeds. All they knew was say, Puta, don't kill, it's bad to do that. Don't kill those ants, it's bad, don't do that. That's all they knew, but they gave you everything they knew. Perhaps your parents were not that educated. Not everyone comes from a good background or an educated family. Sometimes it's this generation that self-educated. Perhaps parents didn't have a good education, but they knew enough to tell you not to do bad things, not to steal, not to lie, not to backstab. That's all they knew, so they gave you 100%. That's what matters. They gave you everything. Does not matter what it is they gave, but that was everything they had. See, we need to take time to reflect on those things. Those people who changed our lives for the better. You are sat where you are right now. You must be feeling really chuffed about yourself. Look, I'm here, I'm listening to the Dhamma, I've come to attain Nibbana. You must be feeling really proud about yourselves. But don't forget all the people that helped you get to where you are today. So it's important from time to time we take a moment to help them, at least to make our resolve, pass on our blessings with compassion in our hearts to all of them. Just as you have been able today to extinguish the fires of desire, aversion and delusion, may all those people who helped you do that be able to do the same, to whatever extent they are capable of. But it has to start somewhere. And today, remember when you were a young child, you worshipped your parents and they touched your head and said, Teruvan Sarnai, Supatteva, Parisemengi illenna pute. Remember? See, today, you are able to wish your parents, but today your wish is 100 times more potent, 100 times more powerful than their wish few years ago, because they had no understanding of the Dhamma. Today you have started to become an Arya. Perhaps you have achieved the state of Sotapanna. Perhaps you are on the path to achieving that state. Perhaps you have achieved the state of Sakrudagami. Perhaps you have achieved the state of Anagami, or on the path to that. If all else fails, at least you are someone who understands the importance of Nibbana. Perhaps they didn't have a clue. See, today your blessing is so important. Do you not believe that your parents' blessings helped you get to where you are today? Do you not believe in that? I strongly believe in that. Because every word they said, that was from the bottom of their heart. They meant it. They wanted me to become successful. They wanted me to achieve great things. But they had no understanding of what greatness is, or what greatness was. But today you do. See, this is why today your wish towards them is 1,000,000 times more powerful than how they wished you, than their wish was for you. Because today you do so with an understanding of the Dhamma. You do so having sought refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. You wish them expecting nothing in return. This is why, if their wish enabled you to get where you are today, just imagine what your wish will be like on them. What a journey they can go on. If only they had your wish, your blessings, your good wishes. So let's take a moment to do that. Think about all the people who helped you get to where you are today. However little or small or large. Your teachers, the Swamin Wahanse in your local temple, where you went first and got your pansil. You didn't know what it is you were saying, right? But the Swamin Wahanse sat you down. Namaskare kiyanna puta. You didn't know what to say, but your parents said, Puta, do like this. Puta, sadhu kiyanna, like you do with your children today. It is that sadhu kiyanna puta that has brought you where you are today. See, just like you do with your children, your parents did once with you, right? That's why you're here today. So let's take a moment to reflect on all of them and pass on our well wishes, our blessings, with compassion and benevolence in our hearts to all of them. May they be well. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the fires of desire, aversion and delusion be extinguished once and for all in their hearts. May they find the freedom of Nibbana. May they find the liberation of Nibbana. May they achieve the same bliss and greater that you experience today. So I will chant the Arya Maitri in Sinhala, because I think today it is in Sinhala we are supposed to be chanting it. But what I want you to do is to contemplate on what I said and pass on those wishes, those blessings, to all those people who have helped you be where you are today. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satnvayo sansara dahayen midetma sansara rogayen midetma sansara anduren midetma sansara ginnen midetma sansara katarin midetma Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatarvetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatarvetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatarvetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satnvayo jati ginnen midetva jara ginnen midetva vyadhi ginnen midetva marana ginnen midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatarvetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatarvetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatarvetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satnvayo shoka ginnen midetva paridevayen midetva dukkha ginnen midetva domanassayen midetva upayasayen midetva yam pittan labati tampi dukkhayen midetva Sankittena pancopadana kanden midetva Nibbana සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා කාම ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා රූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අරූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා සියලු ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා රූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා වේදනා ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා සංඥා ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා සංඛාර ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා විඥාන ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා සියලු ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අතහැරීම නාතයි අතහැරීම වෙත්වා නොයල්ම නාතයි නොයල්ම වෙත්වා මිදීම නාතයි මිදීම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම 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 වෙත්වා රාගගිනි නිවේවා ද්වේෂගිනි නිවේවා මෝහගිනි නිවේවා නිවන් සුවයෙන් සුවපත් වේවා නිවන් සුවයෙන් සුවපත් වේවා නිවන් සුවයෙන් සුවපත් වේවා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් Sukhitatar Vidma Nibbana Parama Sukhayan Sukhitatar Vidma Nibbana Parama Sukhayan Sukhitatar Vidma. Okay. From time to time, find a moment, once a month, to get everyone in your family together. Sit them round the table or on the floor, everyone in the family. Lay out cushions or sofa, whatever, it doesn't matter. And as the father of the family or the mother of the family, talk to them as I have talked to you today. Remind them about those who have helped them to get where they are today. Get your children to think about their teachers. Otherwise, before long, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, our children will not know who teachers are. They will forget everything about them. We will lose our integrity. We will lose our culture. We will lose our values. We need to take this back to the way our forefathers used to live. Let's keep the technology. Let's keep the comforts in our lives. That's okay. But that's no excuse to lose our values, our culture, because this is what defined us. This is what helped us get to where we are today. So don't let the essence of who you are, the essence of being a Sinhalese, the essence of being a Sri Lankan, don't lose that. This is not about nationalism. Don't let the essence of being an Arya Sinhala be lost. Keep that with you. So once a month, get everyone in the family, sit them round the table, sit them on the floor. Talk to them as I have talked to you today. Talk to them about their grandparents, about the people who have helped them in their lives. Remind them to be grateful, and then do the Arya Maitreya. It will have such an unimaginable positive effect on your families, on your lives. You won't be able to believe it. Try it. I know it because we do it. At our monastery we do it every day. I'm asking you to do it once a month. Okay, let's translate the merits and bring the sermon to a close. First and foremost, let us all take a moment once again, as we did at the beginning of this sermon, to remind ourselves that we find ourselves in this incredibly fortunate situation or position where we are in the receipt of the Buddha's teaching because of his infinite compassion towards all sentient beings, his dedication, his selfless commitment towards the deliverance of all sentient beings. He is the Master, the Perfect One, the Supremely Enlightened One, the Omniscient One, the Infinitely Virtuous One, the Infinitely Compassionate One. Let us also in this moment take a moment to remind ourselves of the Bhikkhu Bhikkhunis, Upasak Upasikas, who since time immemorial protected and preserved the Buddha's teaching and passed it down through the generations all the way down to us, in the form of the Tripitaka as well as the noble lineage which is the Kalanavata. It is thanks to them that today we are left with the Dhamma to help us figure out the truth about ourselves, to figure out the essence of life, and to help us all understand that there is a path to our deliverance, the path to freedom, the path to putting suffering to an end. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also take a moment to pass on these merits that we have acquired to all the members of the Mahasangha resident throughout the world who have made it their life's purpose to work towards their deliverance, but also to dedicate part of their time towards the deliverance of sentient beings like you and I. Do not forget for a moment about the Swami Nuances who are resident in your local temples, although you have come here today to make offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, to listen to these sermons and so on. Do not forget for a moment about the Swami Nuances who are resident in your local temples, who have been working day and night towards your betterment, who have been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us take a moment to pass on the merits that we have all acquired to them as well. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also not forget the members of our families, those among the living, our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandparents, and so on and so forth. Those people who we work with, our co-workers, they have taken on our duties and responsibilities, at least for the duration of this program, and relieved you so that you are able to be here today. They are fulfilling your duties and responsibilities towards the family. They are fulfilling your duties and responsibilities towards the workplace while you are here today. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits, they be able to abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead that we invited at the start of this sermon.